The glow in a $39 mineral foundation is a mineral. It is called bismuth oxychloride. Under magnification, it is not a grain. It is a plate, flat, tens of microns across, lying parallel on the surface of the skin. It does not scatter light. It mirrors it, all in one direction, off one flat side. On smooth skin, that reads as radiance. On skin with any texture at all, the plates settle on the raised edges. Every fine line gets a lit rim. Every pore gets a bright edge and a dark center. The product does not cover the texture. It finds it and it outlines it. The industry calls this finish luminous. It is not luminous. It is reflective. And the difference between those two words is the difference between a face that looks softer and a face that looks 10 years older in the same photograph. By the end of this video, you will know the 3-second tilt test. It answers a question no ingredient list can answer, and it works at the tester before any money changes hands. 5 foundations that add years to a face. 3 that take them back. The most expensive of the 3 costs less than the first product on this list. Brand number 1. Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place. Double Wear launched in 1997, fronted by Elizabeth Hulley, advertised as the wearproof face. It became the #1 foundation in 16 markets and outsold the next leading foundation by more than 2 to 1. Retail is $52. And in February of 2026, Estee Lauder replaced it. The current product is a reformulated 36-hour version in 57 shades. The original is still sold, separately, as the original formula. 2 products, 1 name, on the same shelf. But the formula is not the central problem. The category is. Double Wear is built on 3 promises. Full coverage, transfer resistance, wear measured in days rather than hours. All 3 are delivered by one mechanism, and that mechanism is opacity. To resist transfer, a film needs polymer film formers. To hold color for 36 hours, it needs a high pigment load. To deliver full coverage, it needs enough titanium dioxide and iron oxide to stop light at the surface of the skin. And that is exactly what it does. Light arrives at the face and does not get in. Here is why that matters more than any shade match. In visual effects, the hardest material to render is human skin. The reason is a property called subsurface scattering. Light does not bounce off living skin. It passes through the upper layers, travels inside the tissue, scatters against blood and collagen, and exits somewhere else, slightly warmer and softer than it went in. Turn subsurface scattering off in a render, and the face becomes wax. Animators call the result the dead doll look. A studio will spend months of compute on that single property, because without it, no amount of detail makes a face read as alive. A high-opacity foundation film turns it off. On a 22-year-old with tight, smooth skin, the effect is graphic and deliberate. On a face with any structural change at all, the flatness does not read as flawless. It reads as a mask, and a mask reads as age. Double Wear photographs extremely well. It photographs extremely well because a photograph is already flat. In a still image, the missing translucency costs nothing because the medium had already thrown it away. In a room in motion in front of another person, the medium is not flat. The face is. Brand number 2. MAC Studio Fix Fluid SPF 15. MAC was founded in March 1984 in Toronto by Frank Toscan and Frank Angelo, built for professional artists working under studio lighting. Estee Lauder took 51% in 1994. Angelo died in 1997. The acquisition completed in 1998, and Toscan sold his remaining shares and left before the end of that year. Retail runs approximately $40. Now read the actives on the back of the bottle, because they do not say what people assume. Octinoxate, 3%. Titanium dioxide, 1%. The sun protection here is mostly a chemical filter. The titanium dioxide is a minor active, but titanium dioxide appears in the ingredient list a second time, further down, as CI77891, where it is not a sunscreen at all. It is the white pigment. It is what makes the foundation opaque. And that is the version that causes flashback. Titanium dioxide has a refractive index of roughly 2.6, one of the highest of any white solid available to a formulator. Pigment-grade particles land near the size that scatters visible light most efficiently. A camera flash is a broadband white burst fired at the face from 1 meter away. The face returns it, pale, gray, and not matching the neck, the chest, or the hands. which means the common advice is wrong. People are told to avoid SPF foundation in photographs. But removing the SPF does not remove the titanium dioxide, because the titanium dioxide was never primarily there for the SPF. It is there because it is the cheapest and brightest white pigment in cosmetics, and it is in almost every shade of almost every foundation, including the ones with no sun protection printed anywhere on the box. There is a second problem, and it is arithmetic. A labeled SPF is measured in a laboratory at 2 milligrams per square centimeter. For a face, that is roughly a quarter of a teaspoon. Nobody applies foundation at that thickness, and protection does not scale linearly with thickness. The working approximation across the sunscreen literature is the labeled number raised to the power of the fraction actually applied. Apply a quarter of the required amount of SPF 15, and 15 to the power of 0.25 is approximately 2. Ultraviolet exposure is the dominant driver of extrinsic skin aging. Not one factor among many, the factor. And the number on the front of the bottle is not delivering it. It is not a sunscreen. It is a white pigment with a sunscreen's paperwork. Brand number 3. Revlon Color Stay. Revlon was founded in 1932 by Charles and Joseph Revson and the chemist Charles Lockman, whose surname supplied the L in the name. The company filed for Chapter 11 on the 16th of June, 2022, and emerged on the 2nd of May, 2023, having eliminated more than $2.7 billion of debt. Retail runs approximately $17. Color Stay is the product most frequently described by its own customers with a single word: oxidizing. That word is wrong, and the real explanation is more useful than the myth. Iron oxides are already oxidized. That is what the name means. They are chemically inert. They cannot rust further on a face. The pigment in the bottle at 8 in the morning is chemically identical to the pigment on the jaw at 6 in the evening. What changes is not the pigment. It is the light. Dry pigment sits surrounded by air, which has a refractive index of 1. That mismatch is enormous, so light scatters violently between the particles, and the film looks pale and chalky. Then the skin does what skin does. Sebum wicks up into the film and fills the spaces between the particles. Sebum has a refractive index of roughly 1.47, far closer to the pigment's own. The mismatch collapses. The scattering stops. Light that used to bounce back out now passes through and gets absorbed. The film goes darker, deeper, and more saturated. It is the same physics as a wet gray t-shirt looking almost black. Nothing about the shirt changed color. Water filled the gaps between the fibers. Now apply that to a face at 2 in the afternoon. The shade was matched under roughly 4,000 Kelvin retail lighting in the morning on a clean, dry film. By early afternoon, the film has darkened by a visible margin, and it has darkened everywhere the face produces oil, which is the center of the face. The jaw and the neck did not receive product and did not change. The result is a demarcation line at the jawline. That line is one of the most reliably aging things a face can display because it is the single cue that separates makeup from skin. Once a viewer can see where the product stops, they are no longer looking at a complexion. They are looking at a layer, and the brain ages a layer. The shade did not change. The light did. Before we continue, you need to know what separates a foundation that softens a face from one that ages it. It is not price. It is not coverage. It is not the shade. It is what the film does to light. There are 3 real finishes, and one designed to look like one of them from the wrong angle.
Diffusion.
Spherical particles. Silica microspheres, boron nitride, treated pigments. Light strikes a sphere and leaves in every direction at once. Hard edges soften, shadows fill. This is the only finish that reduces the appearance of a line without covering it. Translucency. Low pigment volume. Enough pigment to even out tone, not enough to stop the light. Subsurface. Scattering survives. The face still looks lit from inside because it still is. Opacity. High pigment load. Light stops at the surface and returns evenly. Flawless in a photograph, flat in a room, and the exact optical signature that reads as not alive. And then there is specular shimmer. The particles are not spheres. They are platelets. Mica, bismuth synthetic fluor plugupita. Flat plates lying parallel on the film. They do not scatter light in every direction. They reflect it in one direction, like a floor of tiny mirrors all facing the same way. On an arm swatch, held flat, under a ceiling light, a floor of tiny mirrors looks exactly like a glow. On a face which is curved and moves and has topography, it does not. Plates on a raised edge catch the light. Plates in a crease do not. The result is a lit rim on every wrinkle and a dark line inside it, which is precisely the shading a makeup artist would use if they were deliberately trying to draw a wrinkle onto smooth skin. Now here is the part that matters, and it is the reason this video exists. You cannot read this off the ingredient list. Mica is in almost every foundation sold. It is used as a pearl, and it is also used as a filler, a texturizer, and a carrier for pigment. What separates those uses is not presence. It is load, particle size, and surface treatment. A trace of mica at the bottom of a may contain line does nothing visible. The same mineral at high concentration, in a loose powder, coated to maximize reflectivity, does a great deal. The label prints the first variable and hides the other three. So you stop reading, and you tilt it. Swatch the product on the back of your hand. Let it set for 60 seconds. That part matters, because the volatile carriers have to flash off before the film is the film. Now tilt your hand slowly under a light. Watch the swatch, not the bottle. If a bright band travels across the swatch as you tilt, a highlight that moves, the finish is specular. Those particles are platelets. They are all facing the same direction, and on your face they will find every line you have. If the swatch stays evenly bright at every angle, with no traveling band, the finish is diffuse. That one softens. 3 seconds. 2 outcomes. The counter lighting is engineered to make every finish look like the second one. The tilt is what separates them, and it is the only instrument in this video that costs nothing. There is a second test worth 10 more seconds. Draw a stripe across a knuckle. Let it set. Make a fist. If the film shows a fracture line where it bent, its elongation is too low for an expression line, and it will do the same thing at the corner of your eye by 2 in the afternoon. If what a product does to light matters to you more than what the box says about it, subscribe. No sponsorships on this channel. No brand deals that influence rankings. Formulation data and prices. Brand number 4. Bare Minerals Original Loose Powder Foundation. Shiseido took the parent company private in 2010 for $1.7 billion. 11 years later, in August 2021, Shiseido sold Bare Minerals, Buxom, and Laura Mercier to the private equity firm Advent International for $700 million for all 3 brands combined. Advent placed them into a new company called Orvian, $1.7 billion, down to $700 million for a portfolio of 3. Remember Laura Mercier? It comes back at the end of this video. Retail is $39.50. The ingredient list is short, and every item on it is a problem in a different direction. The active is zinc oxide, 18%. The inactives include bismuth oxychloride, mica, titanium dioxide, and iron oxides. The first problem is the one from the opening of this video. Bismuth oxychloride is a platelet, and here it is not a trace in a may contain line. It is a structural ingredient in a loose powder, present at a concentration a liquid could not carry. This is the difference between presence and load, and this is the load end of it. The second is that zinc oxide at 18% alongside titanium dioxide is the highest concentration of light-scattering white minerals in this entire video. The flashback problem from brand number 2 arrives here in its most concentrated available form. The third is the one nobody says out loud. A loose mineral powder has no binder. It does not form a film. It adheres to the face by clinging to the skin's own surface oil. That is the entire adhesion mechanism. Now consider who buys it. This product's customer has always skewed toward mature skin because the pitch is gentleness and minimal ingredients. And mature skin is the one substrate that mechanism cannot work on for 2 reasons that arrive together. Sebum output declines with age, particularly after menopause. And epidermal turnover slows from roughly a month in the 20s toward 2 months later in life, which means corneocytes, the flat plates that make up the skin surface, become larger and more irregular. The surface gets drier and rougher at the same time. So the powder has less oil to grip and a rougher landscape to grip it on. It catches on the raised edges and skips the low ground. It was formulated for skin that produces oil. It is marketed to skin that has stopped. Brand number 5. Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless. Maybelline was founded in 1915 in Chicago by Thomas Lyle Williams, who named it for his sister Mabel. L'Oreal acquired it on the 1st of February, 1996 for $660 million in cash plus assumed debt. Retail runs between $5 and $8. At those prices, this is not a financial problem. It is here because the name on the front of the bottle describes a mechanism that expires, and the bottle does not mention the expiry. Matte and poreless are not 2 claims. They are one claim, delivered by absorbent powder. The mattifying agent in a formula like this is typically porous amorphous silica. It soaks sebum into its own pore structure and holds it away from the surface of the film. For the first several hours, it does exactly that. Then it saturates. Silica has a refractive index of approximately 1.45. Sebum has a refractive index of approximately 1.47. When the pores fill with oil, the particle becomes almost perfectly index-matched to the material inside it, and an index-matched particle does not scatter light. It becomes transparent. The blurring does not fade. It switches off. The powder is still physically on the face at 6 in the evening. It has simply stopped being visible to light, which was the only job it had. This is the answer to a question a very large number of people have asked about a very large number of products. Why does foundation look correct at 4 hours and wrong at 6? The product did not move. It did not slide. It did not break down. It did not oxidize. A microscopic optical property crossed a threshold, and the soft focus disappeared in about 20 minutes. And the second half of the claim collapses with it. Pores were never filled. They were optically bridged by scattered light. Remove the scattering and the pore edge returns sharper than it started, because there is now a matte, low-slip film sitting inside it. Matte and poreless is not a finish. It is a countdown. 5 foundations. 5 different routes to the same destination. Opacity that removes translucency. A white pigment that returns a camera flash whether or not the box mentions sun protection. A refractive index shift that draws a line along the jaw. Platelets at structural concentration that outline every wrinkle they land on. And a soft focus effect that expires 4 hours into a 9-hour day. But this video is not about what to avoid. It is about what works. 3 foundations that do the opposite. Not because their ingredient lists are pure, because no foundation's ingredient list is pure. They work because of load, particle treatment, and how much of the face they are capable of covering. The most expensive of the 3 is $49. That is less than the first product in this video. The cheapest is $8. Worth it. Number 1. The Ordinary Serum Foundation. $8. It launched in 2017, drew a 25,000-person waiting list, and was discontinued in 2022. Enough people complained for long enough that the company brought it back in February of 2025. The formulation is the argument. A light serum base, low pigment volume, a natural finish, and no radiance claim anywhere on the packaging. Pearl minerals appear only in the may contain line, which means trace quantities in some shades and none in others. And that is the teaching case for the TILT test. This product contains some of the same minerals as brand number 4. It contains them at the opposite end of the load scale. One is a structural ingredient in a powder. The other is a trace in a tint. Same mineral, opposite outcome, and the ingredient list alone will not tell you which is which. The TILT will, in 3 seconds for free. Now the arithmetic nobody runs. A full coverage matte foundation does not stay a single purchase. Opacity removes the things a face already has, and every one of them then has to be bought back. It removes surface glow, so the customer buys a highlighter. It removes natural flush, so she buys a blush. It removes translucency, so she buys a luminous setting spray to fake it. It settles into texture, so she buys a blurring primer. It shows its edges, so she buys a setting powder to lock it down. $52 of foundation, plus a primer, a setting powder, a setting spray, a highlighter, and a blush. That is comfortably over $200 of product, and roughly half of it exists to reverse the effects of the first item on the list. $8 of serum foundation requires none of it because it never removed anything to begin with. Worth it. Number 2. Merit, the Minimalist Perfecting Complexion Stick. $38. Merit was founded in 2021 by Catherine Power, who previously co-founded Who What Wear and sold it for a reported $100 million. The formulation is a cream to satin stick. High emollient content, low pigment volume, and silica in the formula for shine control rather than pearl for shine addition, which is the entire distinction this video has been building toward. Mica appears near the bottom of the list, which is the trace end of the load scale. But the reason this product belongs here is not the formula. It is the format. A stick applied with a finger cannot be applied evenly to a whole face. That is normally called a limitation. It is the opposite. It forces spot application, which is what a working makeup artist does to a mature face anyway. Here is the principle underneath all 8 products in this video. The aging decision is almost never which foundation. It is how much of the face gets covered. A face that is 80% bare skin and 20% corrected reads as skin because 80% of the light behavior is still real. A face at full coverage reads as a surface, regardless of what that surface cost. The most expensive foundation on the market and a $5 drugstore matte fail in exactly the same way because the failure is total coverage, not price. A product that makes total coverage physically inconvenient is doing the customer a favor she did not ask for. Worth it. Number 3. Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer Natural Skin Perfector. $49. And it is owned by Orvian, the same company that owns brand number 4. That is not an inconsistency. It is the point. This channel does not rank companies. It ranks what a film does to light, and one corporation can own a product that fails and a product that works because those decisions are made at the formulation bench and not in a boardroom. Here is what this formula does that almost nothing else in this video does. The pigments are silica treated, not mixed with silica, coated in it. Each pigment particle is wrapped in a spherical, transparent shell before it is ever suspended in the base. Light arriving at that particle hits a sphere, not a plate, and leaves in every direction rather than one. It is the first finish from earlier in this video, diffusion, engineered at the level of the individual particle rather than added as a separate powder afterward. Combined with a low pigment volume and a tinted moisturizer base, the result is soft focus, without opacity. The line is softened rather than covered. Translucency survives. One caveat, stated plainly because this channel does not sell things. This product carries SPF 30, and everything said in brand number 2 still applies to it. At real-world application thickness, that is not the protection printed on the tube. Wear an actual sunscreen underneath it. The SPF is not the reason this product is on this list. The pigment treatment is. 3 foundations that work, 5 that do not, at prices that imply otherwise. If you own a foundation right now, you can settle this in under a minute. Swatch it on the back of your hand. Wait 60 seconds. Tilt it slowly under a light. If a bright band travels across the swatch, the finish is specular, and those particles are outlining every line on your face in every photograph you appear in. If the brightness holds steady at every angle, the finish is diffuse, and it is softening them. 3 seconds. 2 outcomes. And no ingredient list at any price will run that test for you. Drop the foundation you have worn the longest and the year you started wearing it in the comments. If you missed our investigation on the 6 primers making foundation split by noon, it is linked below. Our breakdown of the sunscreens that failed their own SPF testing covers the other half of this problem.
Subscribe.
This channel follows the light, not the label.